truth on the vertical PS5 drama. There's a ton of articles talking about the new fastest PS5 SSD, but I have two better alternatives. And if you thought the essential games this month were good, you've got to see what we're getting on PS Plus Extra. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady. I'm just jumping right into the first story. It's all about Final Fantasy 16. So we have heard about this game for years at this point. I'm pretty sure it was announced with that big showcase that Sony did before the PS5 came out, and it's been a long time coming, and I think it looks pretty good. There's some recent drama with the game though, mainly centered around the PC release. So I always thought this was going to be a day and date PS5 and PC release, but after taking a second look at the release date, it looks like it's coming out on PS5 first, and then eventually at some point maybe it'll come to PC. More like what we saw with Final Fantasy VII Remake, where it took over a year for it to finally come to PC. It came to the Epic Game Store, and then it took almost a year after that for it to finally come to Steam. And as we all know, it never came to Xbox, and it probably won't because Sony is continuing to pay. For us PS5 gamers, this is really a non-issue. When the game comes out on June 22nd, we're going to be able to pick it up on PS5 and everything will be fine. But the interesting thing, or the sort of controversy, I guess, it's pretty funny if you actually read into it, is that the producer was recently at a Mahjong tournament and someone asked him about the PC version of the game, and he basically blew up on the person in a joking way, I want to point out, where he was like, why does everyone keep asking about the PC version? We worked really hard to get this game working on PS5, buy it on PS5, buy a PS5 to play it, don't wait for the PC version. And all I'm gonna say is, to be fair, the only reason people think this game's coming to PC in the first place is because when it was initially announced, and multiple times since then, it's basically been shown as a 6-month PS5 exclusive, and then it'll come to PC later on. But as I said with Final Fantasy VII Remake, I don't think we're going to see this game come to Xbox. So as far as I'm concerned, that makes this a PS5 exclusive game. It's being built for the PS5, it's being optimized for the PS5, it's a next-gen only game, and that makes it one of PlayStation's exclusives for this year. So if you take that and Spider-Man 2, Sony's got two bangers right there ready to come out this year, and then there are tons and tons and tons of third-party games we also have to look forward to. I'm just gonna be real, even though I split my time between PC and PS5, this was always a game I was going to buy on PS5 to begin with. There's just something really cool about playing a new Final Fantasy game on the PlayStation 5, and when you look at the past few, this one looks really good. Like, honestly, this one looks like it could be a huge return to form, more akin to the games that we saw before Final Fantasy 13 versus the games we saw with Final Fantasy 13 and after, because unlike Final Fantasy 15, this one looks like it's going to be a really good game out of the gate, and it looks like it had a supremely focused development cycle from the start. I love that it looks dark, I love that the combat is inspired by Devil May Cry, I love that it's going to be long and gory. It's checking every box I like to see checked with a Final Fantasy game, and yeah, it's coming out on June 22nd on the PlayStation 5, and I think it's a great time for a game like this to come out, you know, in the middle of the summer. And honestly, I get why the producer is saying buy a PS5 for this game, because it's all about numbers at the end of the day. If this game comes out exclusively on PS5, he wants people to buy it on PS5 instead of waiting to get it on PC. So saying that, yeah, we don't know if it's coming to PC is a smart thing for him to do, even though we all know probably after around 6 months we will see this game on PC. And personally, because as far as exclusive games go, Sony doesn't really have a lot coming out this year, I think this game is going to be huge on the PlayStation 5. This could be potentially one of the biggest, if not the biggest, PS5 game in terms of sales yet. I think it's going to do gangbusters, because even looking at something like God of War Ragnarok or Horizon Forbidden West, those games are available on PlayStation 4 as well, whereas Final Fantasy 16 is only going to be on PS5. It's great that we're getting the PS5 generation finally going with full-on next-gen games, or at this point we should call them current-gen games. So the last time we talked about PS Plus, I gave it a pretty solid rating for this month with the 3 games that are on offer: Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Fallout 76, and Axiom Verge 2. I think the 2 really good games in that batch are obviously Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Axiom Verge 2. Fallout 76 is fun if you're the kind of person who enjoys Fallout 4 and the base building and you're looking for an online experience based in that world. So overall, it's a pretty good month. I am knocking it down from my initial special rating of great because Fallout 76 is available in PlayStation Plus Extra. So the difference there obviously is that if it's in Extra, it can be removed from Extra. And I definitely think it will eventually be removed from Extra just because they're putting it in there to look good, right? Like Xbox is saying, oh, hey, look, FTC, we're taking one of our games that we own all the rights to and we're putting it in Sony's subscription service. And then when that Activision deal goes through, I bet it won't take long for Fallout 76 to leave that service. Whereas with Essential, if you add it to your account, it's in your account in perpetuity. As long as you're paying for PlayStation Plus in some fashion, you'll be able to download Fallout 76 and play it to your heart's content, which is why it's kind of a cop-out, kind of not. I would still like to see new games that aren't on the Extra library included in PS Plus Essential. I think Sony's got to do that. But regardless, that was a good batch of games, and then now we know that when it comes to Extra and Premium, we are also getting some really good games. I'm just going to read the whole list out and let you know what my top 3 picks are. So starting out, you're going to get Back 4 Blood, then you're going to get Dragon Ball FighterZ, Devil May Cry 5, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Life is Strange, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Just Cause 4, Jet the Far Shore, Omno, and Erica. And then over on the classic side, if you pay for PS Plus Premium, you're getting Siphon Filter 3, Hot Shots Golf 2, and Star Wars Demolition. So there are 3 games that I think are worth checking out here. The first one maybe being Back 4 Blood. If you didn't play this game when it came out and you've got 3 buddies who also have PS Plus Extra, this is a great game to run through on the weekend. It doesn't have nearly the staying power as something like Left 4 Dead, and some of the DLC, while being pretty cool, didn't do enough to really rope people back in, but thankfully I'm pretty sure it has full crossplay, so you shouldn't have a lot of trouble finding a game. The gunplay in this game is awesome, the level design in this game is really good, and the overall graphics I think are great. There's tons of references to movies like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and other awesome horror movies. The zombies are pretty cool, the shooting feels really good. There's just something kind of corporate feeling about it. It has a lot of weird DLC and microtransaction-y stuff that I don't really like. They had a season pass, they released it on Game Pass day 1. There was just some weird stuff when this game came out that I think all contributed to it not having the same staying power as something like Left 4 Dead 2 did. But with PS Plus Extra, I think this is a fun game to blow through on the weekend with your buddies. The next game I think you should check out is Dragon Ball FighterZ. I'm not a huge fighting game guy, and honestly, I'm not a huge Dragon Ball Z guy. I'm a fan of both, I'm just not very good at them, but this is one that I really enjoyed sinking a ton of hours into, mainly because of the art style. It looks so good, the animations are so fluid, and they have this 2D, 3D system there that really makes it feel like playing Dragon Ball Z in a way that some of the 3D games don't. A lot of people love this game. I think it's one of the highest rated and most played Dragon Ball Z games ever, so I don't really need to do much to recommend it to you. So if you've never played it before, definitely check out Dragon Ball FighterZ. And then the third and highest recommendation I have for you guys is Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. This was a game that was new to me when it came out. I had played DMC Devil May Cry, which I guess is the most hated version of the game, and I thought it was pretty good, but I got a review code for Devil May Cry 5 built in the RE engine, and once I saw the art style and experienced the new music and all the new character designs for Nero, V, and Dante, I was like totally sold on this game. Playing around with Nero's different arms you can use in battle, just learning all the combos, the boss fights, the level design, the graphics, the soundtrack, everything in this game is firing on full cylinder, and when you boot it up for the first time, just the way it says Devil May Cry 5, it gets you excited to play this game. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people out there have played it, but on PS5, it's basically the best way you can play this game. You get all the extra content included with the special edition. There's Virgil DLC, and it runs at a flawless 60 frames per second at a high resolution. Like, this game is just absolutely top to bottom awesome. So if there's one game out of everything besides Jedi Fallen Order you check out, definitely give Devil May Cry 5 a shot. It almost feels like a soft reboot for the series because, like I said, I had never really played any of the other games that came before it, and I didn't feel lost at all. It was an awesome experience. I loved it. And then on the premium side, I still don't think premium is worth paying for, but one game that's worth checking out, I think, is Star Wars Demolition. This is like Twisted Metal with Star Wars vehicles. I don't know how well it holds up or how good it was when it came out, but I remember playing it when I was a kid and kind of enjoying it. So maybe check that one out too. And I'm also going to recommend that you buy PS Plus Extra as a no-brainer right now, because at this point in time when I'm recording this video, it's still on sale for $60. You can get a year of PS Plus Extra for the price of PS Plus Essential, and it is so worth that price. Like, I own most of the games in the library, but I was like, oh, I've been paying month to month for a while and I needed to get a year PS Plus. I just paid the $60 for Extra just in case there's something in the library that I don't have on my PlayStation 5 from my backlog that I want to check out. It's really just like a no-brainer situation. Of course, you can also get premium Premium for $80 right now, but between game streaming not really being all that great, and then of course the fact that they barely ever add any classic games to the service, I'm putting all my money down, all my chips on buying an extra subscription for the year. I don't think you'll be disappointed paying $60 because that's the price of Essential, which is not on sale right now. So you can pay $60 for Essential, or you can pay $60 for Extra, and I would go with Extra. Next up, we got to talk about SSDs because I've seen this article going around about this new super fast SSD that's also pretty cheap that you can get for the PlayStation 5, but I don't really think this is the one to go with for a couple of reasons. I'll let you know what it is though. It's the KC3000 from Kingston, and the reason people are talking about it is because it's fast, and for a 2TB version, it's around $100, which is an extremely cheap drive. The problem is, to use an SSD with the PS5, you should definitely have a heatsink on it. The reason I say you should is because you can take this drive without a heatsink and put it in your PS5 and it'll work, but as these drives heat up, they slow down and they get really hot when they're in the PS5, and Sony basically says, yeah, don't do it, it'll damage your console. So if you want to use this drive with a heatsink, you gotta buy your own and put it on the drive. And I don't know, I'm a pretty technologically savvy person. I've repaired disk drives, I built my own PCs, I've replaced the SSD inside my Steam Deck multiple times. Putting my own heatsink on an SSD just doesn't really feel like the smartest thing to do. It's not something I personally would be comfortable with, but thankfully I have two other drives that I have no problem recommending to you, and while they are a little bit more expensive, they're cheap compared to other options out there. So the first one I'm recommending is my tried and true, my ride or die, the Samsung 980 Pro. I'm partial to this drive because, full disclosure, they did sponsor the channel back when the update for the PS5 came out that allowed you to upgrade the SSD, and they sent me one over. It's a 2TB drive, and I just had no problems with it ever since, so I have no problem recommending that drive. It's also a pretty good price. It fluctuates from anywhere between $240 to $260. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you got some pretty good deals on it because it dropped all the way down to $180 before Christmas. Is a pretty fair price for a 2TB drive with good speeds and of course that heatsink. And I'll throw this one durability because I've transferred it between multiple PS5s. We kind of abused it in our SSD test last year where I downloaded games to it, I transferred games off of disks, I transferred games from the internal SSD to the external SSD, and everything worked totally fine. And I don't know, I just think it's a pretty solid drive overall, and it fits perfectly in that little compartment in the PS5. So that's the one I use in my PS5, which is why I'm recommending it. It's linked down in the description. But if you want to go with a PlayStation branded drive, now is the time to do it because the SN850 that has a heatsink attached to it and also PlayStation branding on the box, that one is finally on sale for a cheaper price at Best Buy right now for $220, which is personally the cheapest price I've seen this drive at, and it seems to be the drive people want to get, and I don't blame them. When you get something that's an accessory for your PlayStation, you feel better getting one that has that PS logo on the box. There's no issue there. I just don't really get why they put an LED light on it when it's going inside your PlayStation, and then you're putting the side plate over it and also like a little cover for the slot it's in, so that LED light is functionally useless. But I guess if you built a PC down the line and you needed a 2TB drive for it, you could put this in that and then you'd see the LED. I don't know. As far as recommending the SN850 goes, I got no issues there, and it'll also be linked down in the description. I'll link the Kingston one too. It's just the last one I would recommend personally, but if you want to get a cheaper drive, it's going to be there. Help me out. If you buy an SSD, use those links in the description. And the last news story I have for you guys today is finally putting to rest this whole vertical PS5, horizontal PS5, is the liquid metal going to melt your PS5 situation that kind of blew up earlier this week. So if you need to be caught up, earlier this week, a game repair shop said that they found a PS5 where the APU had a break in its seal and the liquid metal was able to seep out, get on the motherboard and freeze there, which effectively fried the PS5's motherboard. And the issue blew up out of proportion because the website that reported on this initially, Wololo, I think is what they're called, they mistranslated the initial tweet and read it as there are boxed PS5s sitting on the shelf that have this happen just from sitting there, like their APUs break open and the liquid metal slides out and freezes, breaks the PS5 before people even buy it. And obviously that would be super irritating if you picked up a PS5 and took it out of the box and it was broken, right? Like that would be on par with something like the 3 red rings that the Xbox 360 had. They'd have to do recalls over that and it would be a huge mess. But as I mentioned, it turned out Wololo mistranslated it. And while yes, the liquid metal can leak outside of the APU on your PS5 if you keep it vertically. It only happens to PS5s that have been broken open and tampered with or repaired. So there are repaired PS5s where people have jostled or knocked the APU and broken the seal and the liquid metal has gotten out, and leaving it vertical apparently makes it easier for it to seep out of that hole. And that was the mistranslation. Basically what the original report said was that it was if you opened your PS5, and they read it as unopened PS5s or having it happen to them. I don't really know how, that's just what happened. But regardless, I feel pretty good about this because I basically said, yeah, this could break my PS5. I'm just not really gonna worry about it because I'm probably gonna get a PS5 Slim when that comes out because I wanna talk about it on the channel. B, I'll get a PS4 Pro when that comes out and I wanna talk about it on the channel. And C, my PS5 is basically permanently affixed vertically inside my TV stand. And most people in the comments were like, yeah, I just don't really foresee this being an issue because I set my PS5 up, I'm not really messing with it, I'm not transporting it. There's no real reason why the APU should be breaking open. And it turns out us lazy people, us critical thinkers were correct. And it's good because that would be a huge error on the PlayStation 5's part. So if you're worried about putting your PS5 vertical, horizontal, if it's gonna break it, I don't know, don't worry. It was a mistranslation and it probably won't affect you. If you do end up breaking your PS5, go through the warranty service, just pay whatever the fee is because these people who take it apart and put it back together, who aren't officially like licensed by Sony, are obviously having an issue where they're allowing liquid metal to leak. Just go through the official retailer if something like that breaks, because chances are most of the parts in there are still going to be under warranty, and all you'll really ever be liable for at the very least or very most would be the shipping.